Hello guys, so I'm just going to talk about my brain a little bit, and this probably applies to quite a lot of brains as well. So basically, our brain, when we're born, it's like sort of like a blank slate. It's like we have our natural inbuilt programs, which is to eat, to procreate, to, I don't know, just like sort of our natural instincts, which have been wired into our genetics. And then as we grow older, we get told things by people, and we look at external sources, and it all starts affecting our brains, and this goes inside of us, and it equates to our programs, which then turns into an internal dialogue. um, yeah, and this internal dialogue can absolutely take over our lives, so we have to be very, very careful about the things that we're actually putting into our minds, because if we're putting negative thoughts, negative programs into our minds, then we're going to start having a negative dialogue, and we're going to have, I guess, negative self-beliefs that we can't do things, or that we're incapable, or that, whatever it may be. And I think parents have a lot to do with this, and they probably do it subconsciously. Maybe they're just reflecting their negative dialogues, their negative programs onto us, but I don't know. So parents, like, if the child might do something wrong, like, I don't know, let's say they do something that they were told not to do, the parent might come at the child very aggressively and say, I told you not to do that, and then they might call them stupid or an idiot, and then that child's got that program inside their head. Whenever they fail in the future and make a mistake, they're going to go, oh, I'm such an idiot, or I'm so stupid. But that child isn't actually stupid, that's just something they were told at one point in their life by another individual, and that stuck with them the whole time. And so if children are hearing a lot of negative things throughout their lives all the time, then this is going to have a major impact on them when they're an adult and when they're growing up, and not even just when they're an adult, just throughout their lives. I don't know how quick this process takes, how many times you have to hear something before you believe it, before it becomes a program, but yeah. But presumably this isn't something that's just going to happen once or twice throughout your life. It's probably going to happen consistently over a period of time while you're living in a certain environment. And it's not just from your parents, neither. It could be from your peers, it could be from the TV, it could be from anything. It could be from anyone who has the ability to put you down, even teachers. A teacher might, I don't know, maybe they get angry at you one time because you failed the test, and then that leads to have a fear of failure throughout your life. And there is ways that we can tap into our programs and sort of become aware of them. And if you notice yourself going out of your comfort zone, listen to the voices in your head, because that's when the programs are going to start coming in. If you're comfortable, I'm comfortable right now. I'm just sat here in my bedroom looking out my window, talking to my phone. I'm comfortable doing this, so my programs, they're quiet, because I'm in a comfortable mindset. But when you're uncomfortable, you'll notice your programs coming up, and this is when you have the ability to change them. And you might not always notice it at the time, because at the time it feels like this is you, that the programs are speaking, this is your internal dialogue, this is who you truly are as a person. And you really can get immersed in that clouded perception that these programs are who you actually are at your core. But that's not true, because they are just programs. So one thing that you can do, and one thing that I found to help, is basically I make YouTube videos. When I make a YouTube video, I can have these programs running in my head, but you'll never know about it because I won't say anything. You might notice me doing this thing where I'll get going on a point, and then all of a sudden I'll back off of the point, and I'll sort of like, I don't know, I'll just close off, and that's because my program's running in my head, and they'll tell me to they'll tell me that what I'm saying is wrong, and then I can rewatch that video later on in the day, like now I've just done, for example. And that video will be coming up after, before this one, the video I made earlier. I was watching that back, and I knew at the time that I was having negative thoughts when I was making that video. I was having some negative thoughts, and when I was sat here, I was able to identify that was just my programs running in the background. It wasn't necessarily me, because while I was watching that back, listening to the things I was saying, I wasn't having the same thoughts about them. And if those thoughts were true to the things that I was saying in the video at the time, then surely I would have had them thoughts again. I would have been like, oh, that's a stupid thing to say. But I wasn't like that. I was just able to look at it and be like, oh, well, you're a person having a conversation with your phone. There's nothing strange about this. No weird emotional ties. None of that stuff. It's all just programs running in the background. And yeah, and that's why I'm making this video now, because I just had that realization. And that's pretty much all I want to say. See, right now I don't feel like my programs are running. I feel like because I've become aware of them and because, I don't know. See, now my programs probably are starting to run because I say I don't know when I probably do know the answer. It's just because it's like when a program, I notice this, when a program pops up and I'm not able to identify it as a program at the time, it sort of inhibits me from carrying on what I was going to say. It stops my thought train. And I sometimes can't even explain why. It's just like, it'll come up with this, I don't know, and it stops. And that I don't know is a program. And you know what, there's nothing wrong with not knowing, because I admit I don't know anything for certain. It's like Socrates said, you can't be sure of anything. I can't actually remember exactly what he said, but it's something along them lines. Yeah, so we can't know anything anyway, but the program of I don't know, which is stopping me from exploring certain ideas, isn't necessarily a positive program, because it stops me from doing just that. It stops me from progressing, and I get stuck at this certain point, and then I end up going into a negative spiral of, I don't know, I'm incapable of thinking about that, I'm incompetent, and yeah, and so on and so forth. Yeah, so how can we fix this? So there's something called affirmations, which is basically you affirm to yourself programs which you want to adopt. So, for example, you might say, rather than saying I want to be happy, when you that saying I want, that suggests that you're lacking in something. So you're lacking in happiness already, and that sort of makes it feel like a distance and like something you've got to work really hard to get to. Try saying to yourself on a daily basis, I am happy. I am happy with my life. By saying I am happy, it's embodying the happiness. It's suggesting that you already have it, that you don't have to work to get to it, because you're already there. And you're going to start believing that in your brain. And a belief system, if you're able to formulate a belief system through these affirmations, then you can actually become that belief system, because so the affirmation is the thoughts that you practice. If you can make these affirmations the dominant thoughts that you practice, the dominant thoughts then become the beliefs, and the beliefs are pretty much what define you. The how you feel about yourself, the how you perceive the world, the how you perceive the things around you. And yeah, belief is actually an extremely important thing in life. If you can believe something, then it can be true. And many hypnotists have actually demonstrated things like this, where I've explained this before on my channel, but they put people in the hypnotic state, which is like a sleep state, so they're susceptible to, I guess, subliminal messaging, which is what the hypnotist is there to do. And so when they're in the hypnotic state, they're in like the sleep state, and they can be like this, and it can make them wake up where they're like somewhere in between. And when they're in the sleep state, he'll do all this like talking, he'll tell them to relax, and then he'll tell them something like, I don't know, for example, I'm the most, he'll say that you're the most confident person in the world, and or it can tell you that you're like, it can tell you that you're the queen, and then you'd sit up from this thing, and you'd be acting all prim and proper like you were actually the queen. You could believe to the absolute core of your soul that you were the queen, and anyone who asked you, or anyone who denied it, you'd be like, you wouldn't know what they're talking about. You'd know that you were the queen because this guy told you you're the queen, and you had this core belief that you were the queen at that moment in time. And yeah, so basically what I'm trying to say is, if you believe something, it's true to you. And that's quite an important thing, because it suggests that some of our belief systems perhaps aren't always correct, and that's why we have to question them. And it also suggests that our belief systems are malleable because this person clearly isn't the queen, but because they're able to be subliminally controlled into believing that they are the queen, this suggests that we can believe things that are false, and it also suggests that we can believe anything. So if we can believe anything we want to believe, think about the possibilities there. If we can tell ourselves that, like, positive affirmations every single day, imagine how that's going to change us as people. That's going to have a massive effect, a massive impact on our whole life. And yeah, that's a really cool thing. I'm really interested in hypnotism, and I'd quite like to, I don't know, maybe pursue a career in it if I could. And yeah, I just want to learn the ins and outs of it, and brains are so cool. Yeah, one thing I like to do is when I'm going to sleep, I listen to hypnosis. I listen to sleep hypnosis tracks, and I found this helps like a lot before exams, and I don't know, whenever I'm going to be like forced to face a stressful situation in my life, it can help. And even in day to day, I find that it makes me feel a lot more calmer. And I notice a change in my mood when I don't do it, when I'm not meditating as much, when I'm not putting my brain in this relaxed state and sort of reminding myself who I really am or who I want to become. Yeah, and I have to keep doing that. And this is quite a contradictory video to the one I made this morning. Well, not this morning, a few hours ago. Because in that one, I was saying that I was sort of fed up with sort of saying things and not doing it, and just being sat inside all day playing games on my phone. And I was saying all the things that I want to not do, and I was like, I need to exercise more. After that video, after I finished recording that video, I jumped over the little stream thingy running through the middle of the field, and I was just like running up the hills, and I was walking through the grass, and I couldn't film any of this because my phone had died. But yeah, I was just like, I was really going back to the elements. I was looking around me and everything felt so novel. I was like pretending to be this I don't know, like old human, like an ancient human, like someone who's going to be in the phases of where they're trying to hunt for food, and they're looking around and they're really having to examine everything based on these core functions inside the brain, and it's not overrun by all these intrusive thought patterns which were once helpful to us. Because the reason we have these intrusive thoughts is it was quite important to us at one point, because at one point we did have to overanalyze everything to meet our survival needs. For example, if we hear crinkling in a bush, or we hear some sort of like footsteps, we would have to assume the worst for our survival, because we could just say, oh, it's nothing, it doesn't matter, and we keep on walking. The next thing we know, we're getting eaten by a bloody lion. So that would have helped us then, but now it's, as we're moving into a more civilized society, and we don't have all those physical dangers around us 24/7 that could be putting our life at risk. They then get sort of integrated into our regular day-to-day life, and that can formulate that can manifest as anxiety and things like that around seemingly mundane things. And yeah, so I think reprogramming, meditation and things like that are extremely important to who we are as individuals. Just keeping ourselves happy, keeping ourselves on a good level, you know, just keeping ourselves flowing. Like at the minute, my brain, I feel like it's in its good form. It's working nicely. It's like I'm friends with my mind. It's like I'm all one. My mind and body, it's all one at the minute. I just feel connected to everything, and I love that feeling. And I feel like I've done something to induce it, because earlier in my video I was saying that I'm in a negative state, and I feel like it's something that I can avoid. It's not something that's just there, like inevitably taking over my mind. It's something I can control, and I have controlled it. And I know, because I've done it now, and because I've done it many a times in the past, I can do it in the future. And yeah, anyway, that's all I want to say in this video. If you've enjoyed watching, then leave a like. If you're new, then subscribe. And yeah,